We are in Exodus chapter 32. We're going to have just a brief bit of review with regard to our subject at hand. And sometimes it could be a difficult subject, but when you realize, again, our disclaimer that we're not being fanatics or radical about this business of Christmas, and what should be included and what shouldn't be, then you'll understand that the world is wrong in its concepts. Absolutely. Because of unbelievers or carnal believers, they have either compromised or corrupted the true message of Christmas. Now, we're especially dealing with the category of ornamentation. And just a couple of words. No, not all dangling earrings are wrong. If you ladies have your dangling earrings, please dangle them and tinkle them all you want, all year around. You're not going to have any fussing and fuming from me. However, if you do wear those with regard to the wrong type of ornamentation for Christmas, then you'll see you could be standing in danger, but not from me. We have a visitor here that I have invited several times, and she's here this morning, but she wants to know who makes the Kool-Aid. And I say, it's our ladies group. You know, Jim Jones made the Kool-Aid. It's a joke. I don't have anything to do with it. If you'd want, we could buy Coke all the time and open it fresh each time. Anyway, I also had another comment. There are a lot of questions. Well, you have to understand this is a 4-part series, and in 30 minutes you can't cover everything. You've got to wait till it's all done. And even then, I wouldn't have comprehensively covered it as I would like. But what we're going to do now is just simply bring those who weren't with us up to date very quickly. Ornamentation. We are going to go back to the Old Testament and then even to the New and trace through this word ornament or reasonable facsimiles thereof. It's an accessory placed or worn on a person or thing too, and we saw their biblical application to improve a general appearance, to aid in producing a desired general effect, to aid in accomplishing a specific task like that of worship or then with the harlot's seduction, and then to make a definite statement of belief. In effect, an ornament is a fashion statement. Now, what we're doing then, as we have traced these out, and we don't have time to go back, that's why tape 1 is available, and you can be caught up with it. But what we've done now is we're going to focus in on one special ornament, and that is the earring. The earring is the most, the ornament that is most like a Christmas tree ornament. And we're going to see how that the earring was actually a Christmas tree ornament to false gods. And that, of course, is going to lead us to our discussion of some of the false gods in Christmas today. You probably don't know that they're false, but they are there, brought to us by religious systems that are truly anti-biblical. So the point that we're making then is that an earring is a dangling ornament. In ancient times, point 1, most of the earrings were idols in miniature, or symbols of idols in miniature. And what they would do, and we have our Bible illustrations, is to either hold them in their hand. Now that's a reference to the fact that they kept them in their satchel or purse or pocket or so forth. But they also wore them on their person, especially the ears. And the Bible points that out. In their hand, in their ears. They gave them the strange gods in their hands and in their ears. They were earrings, and it points that out. They were strange to Jacob, but they were very familiar to those of the other nations that he was traveling with. Now, we took that example then and went to the example of Israel and the Exodus, and that's why we're in Exodus chapter 32. The verses prior to to chapter 32 that we examined told us that when Israel left Egypt, the Egyptians gave them jewelry. And of course, the type jewelry that they had were the same types of dangling ornaments that the Egyptians wore to worship their gods. There were big idols or ornaments, as we'll see in a little bit, or little idols or ornaments were worn on their person, but especially in the ear. That's how Israel knew to make a molten calf. Let's read about it. Verse 1, middle part of the verse. They said to Aaron, "Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this man Moses, who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we don't know what is become of him." And Aaron said unto them, note this, "Break off the golden earrings." How in the world did they know to make a golden calf? The golden calves were dangling from their ears, or symbols of Apis worship. Again, they were environmentalists, they were naturalists, much like the American Indians having the totem poles and that sort of thing to the Great Spirit. Well, their Great Spirit was Apis as far as the animal world was concerned. It was Ra as far as the stellar world was concerned with the sun. And they had their images, great and small, to all of them. It just so happened one of these guys had on his ear an Apis, a bull god of Memphis. And he said, "Hey, what about this one? He's strong. He brought us up with a powerful hand out of Egypt. Let's make a bull god." So Aaron said, "Break off your earrings, which are in the ears of your wives, your sons, your daughters. Bring them to me." The people break off the golden earrings which were in their ears, brought them to Aaron, and he received them at their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool. After he made it a molten calf, and he said, "These be thy gods, O Israel." All right, now just hold your place there, and let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 4. Deuteronomy chapter 4. In Deuteronomy chapter 4, we have an interesting observation made by God himself with regard to images. Now, may I qualify? There is some justification for having certain images in religious circles. For example, we've got a cross. That cross does not have the Lord Jesus Christ on it, but it is the central figure of our religion. And again, it's not a religion per se, it's a relationship. We do not venerate the cross, we do not look to the cross, but we understand what went on there and that same power is now available to us. But with others, they look to the figures themselves, whether on the cross or on their dresser or on their dashboard or wherever they worship. They look to those figures to answer their prayers. That is idolatry. Now, we would never want to be guilty of an idolatrous practice, but there is some justification for certain types of symbols, Christian symbols, and we have them constantly in the Word. But again, they are not to be venerated. Verse 15, "Take ye therefore, Israel, good heed to yourselves, for ye saw no manner of similitude, no image, on the day that the Lord spoke unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire, lest you corrupt yourself and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that's on the earth, winged fowl that flies in the air, anything that creeps on the ground, waters beneath the earth, lest you lift up thine eyes to heaven," and so forth, the sun and the moon. Now again, why? Verse number 15 tells us, "You saw no image." And yet, even though they heard the thundering voice of God up there, they knew that the true and living God was on the top of that mountain giving the law for them. They were down in the valley saying, "Make us the Egyptian deities." So, they took the gods regarded by other nations and brought them into their own worship. Okay, point 2. We're going to go back to Exodus in a moment, but let's go to the book of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 30. The second point we want to discuss under this subject then is that Israel did something with those earring gods. They took them off of their ears and they put them in a collective pot, melted it down, and made a larger image of what was already on their ear. That's how they knew. They were familiar with this god down in Egypt. They now had his image on their ear. He was a symbol of strength and power, virility, fertility. And so they said, let's make this our god. So they exchanged its smaller idol gods in the earrings for one larger god, Apis, bull of Memphis. Ornament for ornament. Now you stay with me, because here is the point. They took the ornament off their ear that symbolized the idol, and they made a bigger idol. Now in later times, they would take the idols off of their ears, and instead of doing that, if they were by themselves and couldn't get to church where the big idol was, you know where they would put it? On the tree. Where in the world did the world get this idea of taking an image, an ornament, and putting it on a tree? They got it right from the idolatry that came clear back from Babylon and has brought its way up through Roman Catholicism to our own present day of corrupting true Christianity with the myths and the demonism of Babylon. Isaiah 30, verse 22. Note that the bigger idol is also called an ornament. Ye have devoured also the covering of thy graven images of silver, and the ornament of thy molten images of gold. Thou shalt cast them away as a menstruous cloth. Get thee hence, it says. Okay, the word ornament there is ephudah in the Hebrew. What does it mean? It's the metallic plating around the molten image. Now naturally, somebody said this morning that they were going to melt down all of their gold and give it to the pastor as a present. The problem is half an ounce, a quarter of an ounce is not worth very much. They said $12.50 on the open market. That's okay, keep it. You'll need it more than me. But the point here is that naturally they didn't have this much gold, but what they did was make a metal object, fashion it in this image, whatever it was to be, and then they would plate it with gold. And they would call the plating an ornament for the idol. They took an ornament off their ear and made an ornament. They exchanged ornament for ornament. Now, later on, when they weren't at church and they wanted to worship that idol, they'd take it off the ear and put it on the tree and see the ornament of the idol. So, that's verse number 32. Go back to chapter 25 in Exodus, holding your place in verse 32, or chapter 32, and it is called here an overlay. Exodus 25, You'll make an ark of shittim wood, 2 cubits and a half shall be the length. Verse 11, and you will overlay it with pure gold, within and without you'll overlay it. But that overlay was called an ornament. If it's on a piece of tabernacle furniture, it's fine, covering it with gold. That gold is the metal that symbolizes God. But if it's on a non-sanctioned ornament that has a religious connotation, it is wrong. So what did they do? They literally, it was one of the earrings they would have. You've seen these symbols around Evansville. Same one, Apis, the bull god. They took it off their ear and said, let's make, and you'll excuse the draw. I didn't think I did a bad cow this morning, but for those who may need glasses or do not know what this is, that is the calf that they made. Okay, that's what it looked like. One ornament for the other ornament equals what? Idolatry or demonism. How do we know? Let's go to Psalms 96. One thing for sure, we do provide here cheap entertainment. It may not be good, but it's cheap. Okay, Psalms 96, verse 5. How do we know that this is demonism and idolatry? Because the Bible tells us that's exactly what it is. The ornament for ornament equals an idol, which equals a demon. Back of every idol is a demon. Verse 5. For all the gods of the nations are idols. Psalms 106. What was this image? It was an idol, but it went back now, Psalms 106, verse 34, to demons. This verse and a verse by the Apostle Paul will point this out clearly. They did not destroy the nations concerning whom the Lord commanded them, but were mingled among the heathen and learned their works. See, this is the contention that we have. The heathen have brought up this business of venerating saints. And so, without knowing it, they just made him Santa Claus. But you know his real name? It's Saint Nicholas. Who is he? A 4th century patron saint canonized by the Roman Catholicism and looked to in prayers and venerations and statues as one who is going to provide good things for boys and girls. Patron saint of children. We are, in effect, making our kids idolaters when we put that image up there. Again, they mingled among the heathen instead of pure, true Jehovah worship with no similitude, no image on that mountain. You heard a voice but saw no image. Now they said, make us gods, make us an image of devotion. All right? But were mingled among the heathen, learned their works. They served their idols, which were a snare unto them. Note beyond the idol, they sacrificed their sons and their daughters unto devils. They shed innocent blood, even the blood of their sons and daughters, which were sacrificed unto the idols of Canaan. 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Now, I point this out simply to show you, hey, let's celebrate Christmas. You bet your bottom dollar. But for those of us who are saved and understand the Bible, let's celebrate it truly. Let's put the proper figurines in their proper place and understand that they're not saints and we don't pray for them. It just tells the story of the first Christmas. But when we put a saint in the tree, literally we're taking him off our ear and putting him on the tree and looking to him under the tree to bless us. We'll see that in a moment. The point we're making here is that they took the earrings off their ears, made a bigger idol, which equals idolatry and demonism. Verse number 5. 1 Corinthians 10. But with many of them Israel God was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Now these things were our examples, to the intent we should not lust after evil things as they lusted. Neither be ye idolaters, as some of them were. As it is written, the people sat down to eat, drink, and rose up to play. They were idolaters, pure and simple. Verse 14. Wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry. See, that's the exhortation I'm given this morning. Hey, you don't need idols for Christmas. And if you do, you're not only corrupting yourself, but you stand in danger of corrupting children, which is a terrible, terrible crime. Verse 19, what say I then? that the idol is anything, or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols is anything. The point he's making is, this is just wood, stone, or metal. This is just the image of a cow. It's nothing. But what it represents is something. Verse 20. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils represented in those idols. Yeah, it's just wood and stone. It's just a figure. It's just a picture. But it's what they represent. And they're actually offering their children. How many children have grown up, died, and gone to hell because they look to patron saints rather than the Jesus Christ and the cross to go to heaven? This thing about what we put on at Christmas takes on a more serious fashion than what might appear at first. They sacrifice to devils and not to God. So he says, I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils. The idol is nothing, that's true, but what that idol on that tree represents, or surrounding and enhancing the season of the year, represents demonology and idolatry. Okay. Now let's go back to Exodus. And probably right about at this point, there would be some who are die-hard emotionalists and sentimentalists that would wish would make an exodus off this subject. Just think, there are still two more sessions on it. Got a ways to go. Point 3 out of 100. No, not really. Okay. Verse number 6 tells us what Paul quoted. They rose up early on the morrow. Here's an interesting thing. Verse number 5 says, and when Aaron saw it, the bull god, he built an altar before it, made a proclamation and said, tomorrow is a feast to the Lord. Boy, you talk about a corruption. Elohim is God's, but now he says, he changes the wording. Now we're having a feast to Jehovah, and he named the Apis bull god of Memphis, coming down from Babylon, he named it Jehovah. He included it in Jehovah worship. Boy. And now they're going to have a feast to Jehovah, and tomorrow a special day dedicated to Jehovah. They tack the Lord's name on an idolatrous event and season. So the people sat down to eat and to drink and rose up to play, which is basically all that Christmas is for most folks. The Lord said to Moses, get down. Your people, which you brought up out of the land of Egypt, verse 7, have corrupted themselves. Shakath. Interesting that this particular word, shakath, is in the PL stem, meaning intentionally. What does that tell us? They knew better. What do our politicians say? In your heart you know I'm right. Go ahead, you can do it. But Pastor, that's an intentional infringement. You know better. They knew better. PL stem indicates they intentionally knew better. They didn't see any figure, but they decided they're going to make one of the Egyptians gods their gods and call him Jehovah. Perfect tense indicates that they did it completely as a act of finality, intentionally and completely corrupted, distorted, or perverted Jehovah worship. Now, what did they do? Holding your place here, go back to chapter 19. Chapter 19. I'm going to show you how we intentionally corrupt ourselves with the same type of nonsense in putting idols up for Christmas. They broke their word as a special notation under this point. In verse number 5, it says, if you obey my voice and keep my covenant, you'll be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people. And these are the words you'll speak to the children of Israel. Verse 6. He brought, verse 7, all the words which the Lord commanded. Verse 8. And all the people answered together and said, all that the Lord has spoken we will do. And Moses returned the words of the Lord of the people to the Lord. They ratified the Mosaic covenant. What did they do? They gave their word. How many times pastor gives an invitation, we raise our hand, and oh God, I'm never going to be an idolater. And it comes to Christmas, and oh God, I just have to be. But you gave your word. You said, Father, pure is going to be my devotion and commitment to you. Out all false gods and so forth from my heart. They broke their word. That's the point. Exodus chapter 20 this time, one chapter over. They especially broke the first 4 commandments. Verse number 3 says, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Now, either it's Jesus Christ or Santa Claus. Both are venerated, both are looked to provide blessings. It's either or. If you have Jesus Christ, you can't have St. Nick. If you have St. Nick, you can't have Jesus Christ. There's only room for one God in the 10 commandments. It's either pure Jehovah worship, and again, we're talking about Old Testament economy and dispensation. But the principle still stands true. Secondly, no graven images. Verse 4, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image that is in heaven above, earth beneath, water under the earth. Why? Verse 5, middle part. I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers to the children, to the 3rd and 4th generation of them that hate me. We wonder why kids die. We wonder why there's poverty to a nation. Well, we just got to give our kids Christmas and honor Saint Claus. Well, no graven images. Bow down thyself to them nor serve them. You look to the true and living God to provide your needs, not some saint, some image. That's the point God is making here. No profaning God's name. Verse number 7, don't take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. He'll not hold him guiltless. How did they take the name of the Lord in vain? Tomorrow's a feast to Jehovah. They put his name on the feast to Apis, the bull god. We're going to have Christmas. Christ Mass? Where does that come from? Catholicism? Where in the Bible does it say that we're to honor Christ with a Mass? Nowhere. We're putting the name of Christ on a season of the year and on a so-called holy day when it's combined with heathen pagan practices and images. No Sabbath breaking. Remember, tomorrow is going to be a day dedicated to this God, when the Sabbath is a day that was supposed to be set aside each week. So they broke all 4 of the commandments. Now, not only did they do that, come back to Exodus chapter 9. Point 3. Point 1 is they broke their word. Point 2 is they broke the first 4 commandments. Point 3, they misunderstood the purpose of the Egyptian plagues. In verses 1 through 7 of chapter 9, guess who we have a plague against? Apis. Verse number 3. Behold, the hand of the Lord is upon the cattle. Well, who was the god that represented the cattle? Apis, the bull god. The same molten calf they made, which is in the field, the horses and asses and so forth. Verse 4, and the Lord shall sever between the cattle of Israel and the cattle of Egypt. There shall be nothing die at all of the children of Israel. Tomorrow this thing shall be done. And all, verse number 6, of the cattle of Egypt died. Now, here God destroyed that whole agricultural section of their economy by killing all the cattle of the Egyptians. And now they're going to take that one that represents the cattle and say, let's make him our God. They truly misunderstood the whole purpose of the plagues. It was not just upon Egypt, but it was upon their gods, meaning their idols and the demons that backed them up. Verse 12 of chapter 12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night and smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, note, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. God cursed Apis, the bull god, and they said, let's make him and let's bless him with our praise. Let's look to him to provide for us. That's exactly what they were doing. They knew that God judged him and killed every single cow in the area of Egypt that belonged to the Egyptians. And despite that, they thought that this image would have more power than Jehovah. Let's make him our God. They were trying to bless an image that God had cursed and judged and totally destroyed in the land of the Egyptians. Now again, we're still holding our place here in chapter 32. Let's go now to 2 Samuel. If anything at all, you ought to get a good review of the Old Testament verses and be able to go back and forth just a little bit in our study. They misunderstood the purpose of the plagues of Egypt to begin with. Chapter 7 of 2 Samuel, verse 22. Wherefore thou art great, O Lord God, there is none like thee, neither is there any God beside thee, according to all that we have heard with our ears. And what one nation in the earth is like thy people, even like Israel, whom God went to redeem for a people to himself, to make him a name, and to do for you great things and terrible, for thy land before thy people, which thou hast redeemed from Egypt. Now note, from the nations and their gods. For thou hast confirmed to thyself Israel to be thy people, and hast become their God. They misunderstood the purpose of the plagues. God not only wanted to judge those people and then bring Israel out, but he also wanted to redeem them from their idolatrous religious practices. Now let's go back to chapter 32. God said, verse 8, we'll finish this and then we'll get to our next point and then bring this session to a close. Verse 7, better get down to your people. They've corrupted themselves, thoroughly perverted Jehovah worship. They've turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They made a molten calf and worshipped it, sacrificed thereto, saying, These be thy gods, O Israel. I have seen this people, and behold, it is stiff-necked. Therefore let me alone, that my wrath might wax hot against them and consume them. And again, based upon that, you have to understand why there are difficulties in the world. The world is a world full of false religions, false teachings, false gods. Many of them are in the form of idols. And America has trouble today every Christmas season because they bring their idols out as at no other time in the history of that year, and look to the idol, the images, to provide blessings for them. Now, we're running short of time. We want to just cover a little bit of point 4 if we can. Genesis chapter 31. What we want to do with point number 4 is to give you the technical Greek and Hebrew names for these gods. Today we would call them leprechauns and elves. Lup, small, icon, image. When St. Patrick went around promoting his so-called Christianity, he said, hey, look, here's one of the little people. You just hold the little people in your hand. You just put the little people in your house. That represents the big people. And you can go to the little person because you can't carry around the big heavy statue of the Saint Nicholas. I've seen some mammoth things of Santa Claus. But I'll tell you what you can do. You can make a leprechaun. That's exactly what that means. A small icon or idol. But you just put it in your pocket, and when you need good luck and fortune, you capture him out of your pocket and you just pray to him, and that's going to bring you luck. Only in the Old Testament and the New Testament, they had different names for them. Elves, same thing. Isn't Santa a jolly old elf? He's a leprechaun, just a different name, same concept. Verse 30, Genesis 31. And now, though thou wouldest needs be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house, yet wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? Now, let's just move on. Rachel, last part of verse number 32, stole them. Moving on to verse 34. Now Rachel had taken the images and put them in the camel's furniture and sat upon them. Last part of verse 35, and he, Laban, searched, that was her father, but he found not the images. Now these images were what? Gods. You have stolen my God. Can you imagine? I can't come to you this morning. Hey, anybody see God? Is he in your purse? Come on now, you're hiding him. That's what he's doing. You're hiding God. Somebody's taken my God. I wouldn't want to worship somebody like that. I wouldn't want to worship somebody that I put in the box for 11 months out of the year and take out and put on my tree and look to him. Where is he the other 11 months? I'll tell you what, the God of the Bible never slumbers nor sleeps. Yet we control the God of Christmas, Santa Claus. Now, the word there is teraphim, root word Rapha. Jehovah Rapha, the Lord that healeth thee. And it means to restore to health or prosperity. And what they would do is, put them on the dashboard of their ox cart. And I forget which one of those saints it was. They've got their plastic Jesus, the song goes, or what have you. Whatever saint it is, they put him up there, and he's going to bless the ox cart. Now put him in the house, he's going to bless you this way. That's what a teraphim was. It meant one who restores or maintains favor. Now, if you go over to Japan, they put an image of their ancestor in a grotto or grove. It's the same difference. They wear their ancestors, something that recognizes them. It's a teraphim. It's an image. That's what they do. But it's an image that they can take with them. He doesn't live in their heart, you see, but he does in their mind in the form of this image. Acts chapter 19, very quickly. The Apostle Paul was crucified, as it were, for doing the same thing that perhaps in your mind you wish you could do to me. I'm just teasing, but I just know how it is with Christmas. Verse 23. At the same time there arose no small stir about that way. A certain man named Demetrius, a silversmith, had made silver shrines for Diana, brought no small gain to the craftsmen, whom he called together and said, Sir, you know that by this craft we have our wealth, making images. What were those images? They were called shrines. That's where we get the term of a religious organization today. It's a shrine. But I've got the Hebrew. I must add Hebrew on the mind. This is the Greek word, neos. What does the shrine mean? It means miniature temple. And they'd make this miniature temple of the great temple Diana and put a little statue of her right in the middle, and they could take that to their house and look at it and pray to it. Or they would take smaller images, put it in their pocket, or put them as charms on their ears. Now, it was called a shrine. What is that, neos? A miniature temple or statue of relative size for households or personal charms as earrings and what have you. They could carry their gods along with them and look to them at any specific time for blessing. Note what Paul said. Now, if you would you would blame one for wanting to get back to the purity of the Christmas message, then you're blaming one who's standing in great company. Aside from that of Jesus Christ and Moses, there is no greater personage in the Bible than the Apostle Paul. Moreover, ye see, verse 26, that not alone at Ephesus, but also throughout all Asia, this Paul persuades and turns away much people, saying that they be no gods which are made with hands, so that not only this our craft is in danger to be set at naught, but also the temple of the great goddess Diana is going to be despised and her magnificence destroyed. The Apostle Paul beat his head in a geographical location against the very same principle that I'm talking about. If you want to have a God, you better have one that has been there for eternity, not one that you can make, carry around, put away, bring out whenever you need him, but one who is your constant companion and source of power and blessing.